It's just impossible, especially with Harry's memoir about to come out. But ever since Meghan left Britain and then did the
Tom Bauer goes in on Harry and Meghan and their little upcoming Christmas with whatever they're really going to choose to do.
And then describing her experience guest editing British Vogue, she worked pretty closely with the actual
Lady Colin Campbell and Tom Bauer just dropped something that's got everyone talking. These two have spent decades digging into royal secrets nobody wanted you to know, and they're known for going deep on their research. So, when they both start pointing out the same weird things about Harry and Meghan's kids, people listen. What they found at those hospitals, it doesn't match up with what we've been told. Missing records, changed paperwork, staff who can't remember seeing Meghan on the days she supposedly gave birth. And here's the wild part. There's questions that just aren't getting answered. This isn't just gossip anymore. This is about what actually went down and why the story keeps shifting. But before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because what we're about to uncover gets wild. Go ahead and like this video too. Trust me, you're going to want more people to see this. Now let's get into what they actually found on May 6th, 2019.
Latest scandal, a $1,700 dress that mysteriously disappeared from a Variety magazine photo shoot and ended up in her Netflix.
That's the day Archie was supposedly born, and here's where things get weird. Portland Hospital in London. Fancy place, royal approved, the whole deal. But nobody remembers Meghan being there, and I'm not talking about just random people. Security teams, nothing. Midwives, can't place her. Front desk staff, nope, no record of seeing her walk through those doors that day. For a royal birth, that's basically impossible. These hospitals run tight operations, especially when you're talking about someone as high profile as Meghan. Get this, the palace put out an announcement saying Meghan was in labor. Sounds normal, right? Except they made that announcement 7 hours after Archie was supposedly already born. Think about that for a second. How does that even work? You can't be in labor after the baby's already here. The timeline makes zero sense, and nobody's explained why they got it that backwards.
Right? Harry himself said he didn't know how long his father has. Well, that's different now because King Charles literally put out that video saying that.
Then, 11 days later, something even stranger happens. The birth certificate gets changed. Meghan's full name, Rachel Meghan, just disappears from the document, just gone. They added Prince before Harry's name too, but the fact that they went back and erased her given names, that's not normal paperwork cleanup. That's a deliberate change, and when people asked why, the palace said it was a Sussex decision, not theirs. Here's the thing about royal births. They follow a very specific playbook that's been around forever. There are approved doctors who've been thoroughly vetted. There are live updates given to the press as things progress. And then there's that famous moment everyone knows. The hospital steps photo where the new parents show off their baby to the world within hours of the birth. It's tradition, it's expected, and honestly, it's part of what makes a royal birth feel real and publicly acknowledged.
And Lady C, well, have had so many brilliant questions coming in from our outspoken members.
William and Kate did this exact routine 3 times. Once with George, again with Charlotte, and then with Louis. Same process every single time. Cameras everywhere, doctors confirmed and announced, the whole world watching it happen in real time. But with Archie, none of that happened. 0 hospital steps photo. No approved doctors stepped forward to confirm anything. No live updates tracking the progress. Just a vague statement released hours after the fact. And then everyone was expected to just accept it and move on. The whole thing was wrapped up in this thick layer of secrecy from the very beginning, and that's exactly what got people asking questions. When you break from tradition that dramatically, especially for something as significant as a royal birth, people notice, and they start wondering why. Tom Bauer isn't some random person throwing around theories on the internet.
Family, except for her mother. They're both essentially the same person. So you deserve each other on Christmas.
This guy spent his entire career investigating powerful people and writing books that actually hold up under scrutiny. So when he goes on television and makes a specific claim about Meghan and those hospital records, it's worth paying attention to what he's saying. And he didn't just talk about this stuff from a distance. He says he actually went to Portland Hospital himself to dig into what happened that day. According to what he shared publicly, he talked directly to staff members who would have been working there around the time of Archie's birth. He looked into whatever records and information he could access. This wasn't just him repeating gossip he heard somewhere. He's claiming he did actual footwork to figure out what went down. And his conclusion? He went on camera and said Meghan wasn't at that hospital on the day Archie was supposedly born. He didn't hedge, didn't say maybe or possibly.
We've been talking about this quite a bit on The Nerve, and I was told go speak to Lady Colin.
He stated it like a fact he'd personally verified. Think about what that means for a second. Portland Hospital handles high-profile births all the time. They've got systems in place, security protocols, staff check-ins, logs of who's coming and going. When someone as famous as Meghan Markle shows up, especially for something as significant as giving birth, there should be traces of that visit everywhere. Security alerts would have gone off. Doctors would have had to sign off on paperwork. Staff would remember the extra precautions and the buzz around having a royal family member in the building. But according to Tom Bower's investigation, none of that exists. No security confirmations, no doctor statements. Nothing showing she was physically in that building on May 6th, 2019. Here's where it gets even more confusing.
I think it was all about trying to embarrass the king. It was about destroying the monarchy. It was about all the time.
Tom Bower also mentioned that Portland Hospital wasn't even supposed to be part of the plan in the first place. The original idea, according to what he's dug up, was a home birth. Meghan wanted to do it at home, away from all the cameras and public attention. That would explain why there was so much secrecy around everything. A home birth is private, personal, totally understandable for someone who says they value privacy. But then the story shifted. Suddenly it's Portland Hospital. Suddenly there's this whole narrative about a hospital birth that nobody can actually verify happened. So how did we end up with the official story being a hospital birth when that apparently wasn't the plan? And if it really did happen at Portland Hospital like we were told, why can't anyone confirm the most basic details? Tom Bower's raising questions that should have simple answers.
To a full-blown global firestorm. Not just the UK, not just America, we're talking Europe, Australia.
And the fact that those answers don't exist is what makes this whole thing so strange. When you can't verify something that should be incredibly easy to verify, that's when people start wondering what's really going on behind the scenes. Fast forward to June 2021, and baby Lilibet Diana is born. Or at least, that's when we're told she was born. This time, it's not London, it's California. Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital, to be specific. And just like with Archie, people started noticing things that didn't quite make sense when they looked at the official paperwork. The birth certificate that got filed raises some serious questions. And once you see what people found, you can't really unsee it. There's this code in the state field on Lilibet's birth certificate. It says 105.
And I want to show you this.
She was a yacht. That's right. It's mentioned in the book. Never.
Now, if you're not familiar with how birth certificates work in the US, that might not mean anything to you. But here's the thing. Every state has its own specific code that goes on official birth documents. California's code is 104. That's what should be on every single birth certificate filed in the state of California. But Lilibet's certificate, it's got 105 sitting right there in that field. So what's code 105? That's Colorado's state code, not California. Colorado. Completely different state, about 1,000 miles away from Santa Barbara. Now, maybe it's just a clerical error. Maybe someone punched in the wrong number when they were filing the paperwork and nobody caught it before it became official. That happens sometimes, right? Administrative mistakes aren't exactly uncommon. But when you're dealing with a birth this high profile, and when there's already been questions and weird inconsistencies around Archie's birth, a mistake like this stands out.
I think it was a parody because I thought that this was AI. I thought this cannot be real.
The reason I didn't think it was AI.
People aren't just going to shrug it off as a random typo. The other possibility that people started throwing around is a lot more complicated. What if the code is right and the location is what's wrong? What if Lilibet wasn't actually born in Santa Barbara like they said? What if she was born somewhere else, maybe even in Colorado, and the paperwork got filed in a way that doesn't match the official story we've been told? It sounds wild, but when you've got a state code from a completely different part of the country, sitting on a California birth certificate, you can see why people's minds go there. And just like with Portland Hospital and Archie, there's another layer to this that makes it even stranger. Staff at Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital reportedly can't place Meghan there on the date Lilibet was supposedly born. Same pattern as before. No confirmed sightings, no clear records of her being at the facility.
Supposed to be a polished promotional appearance quickly spiraled into one of the most heated confrontations in daytime television history.
Nothing that would normally exist for a birth involving someone this famous. You'd think a hospital would remember hosting a member of the royal family, especially for something as significant as childbirth. But once again, the people who should definitely know whether she was there or not, they don't seem to have any recollection of it. One weird thing could be a mistake. Two weird things start to look like a pattern. And when you've got birth certificates with wrong state codes, staff who can't confirm anything, and a whole lot of secrecy around both births, it's not surprising that people keep asking the same question. What actually happened? And why doesn't any of this line up the way it should? Here's where Meghan's version of events starts to feel even more disconnected from reality.
And unfortunately, it's something as well his mother did against Charles. The one point about all this is that Charles...
Years after both births, she suddenly starts talking about having preeclampsia during her pregnancies. If you don't know what that is, it's a pretty serious pregnancy complication. High blood pressure, potential organ damage, the kind of thing that requires constant medical monitoring and treatment. It's not something minor. It's not something doctors just brush off. And it's definitely not something you just casually mention years after the fact, like it's no big deal. Here's the problem with this claim. If Meghan really had preeclampsia, especially as an older mom, which automatically puts you in a higher risk category, there's no way any doctor would have let her leave the hospital just 2 hours after giving birth. That's not how medicine works. Women with preeclampsia get monitored closely. They stay in the hospital.
Latest scandal, a $1,700 dress that mysteriously disappeared from a Variety magazine photo shoot and ended up in her Netflix.
They don't get sent home before the medical team is absolutely certain everything's stable. The fact that she's claiming she had this serious condition, but also says she left the hospital almost immediately, those two things don't fit together at all. And then there's Harry's memoir, Spare. That book is hundreds of pages of him going into excruciating detail about everything. His childhood, his relationship with William, his feelings, his experiences. He talks about both pregnancies extensively. He covers Archie's birth, Lilibet's birth, all the emotions around becoming a father. You know what he never mentions once in that entire book? Preeclampsia. Not a single reference to Meghan dealing with this life-threatening complication. If it was real, if it was serious, if it was something that actually happened, why wouldn't it be in there? It makes no sense that he'd leave out something that significant.
Signature cheerfulness, flashing that famous smile. Dermatoli adjusted his notes, his calm professional tone.
But wait, it gets even more ridiculous. Meghan also told this story about stopping at Taco Bell during labor when she was having Lilibet. Let me repeat that. Stopping for tacos while supposedly in the middle of a medical emergency. She painted it like this cute, spontaneous moment. grabbing some food on the way to the hospital. Except if you're in active labor, especially if you're dealing with complications like preeclampsia that she claims she had. No doctor on earth would tell you to take a Taco Bell detour. You'd be rushing to get medical attention, not cruising through a drive-thru. Lady Colin Campbell wasn't having any of it. She actually consulted with a real gynecologist about Meghan's timeline and medical claims. The doctor's response? Called the whole thing complete nonsense. Said it doesn't make any medical sense whatsoever.
Huge problems.
Lady Colin Campbell said these concerns weren't about...
You can't have it both ways. You can't claim you had serious pregnancy complications and also claim you were casually grabbing fast food during labor and leaving the hospital hours after birth. Those stories don't live in the same reality. And here's another piece that completely destroys the credibility of the whole thing. The doctor who was supposedly present for one of the births, the one who was supposed to have delivered the baby, there's documentation showing he and his wife were actually out of the country when the birth supposedly happened, not in the same city, not even in the same country. They were traveling, completely unavailable. So if he wasn't there, who delivered the baby? And why would Harry and Meghan's camp name a doctor who provably wasn't present? It's not like this is something you can just make up and hope nobody checks.
Is one of the oldest in the world. So he should have a feeling for...
Every single medical claim Meghan's made about these pregnancies has holes in it. The timelines don't work, the logistics don't make sense, the doctors can't be verified. And the more she talks about it, the more it sounds like she's building a story based on what sounds dramatic and sympathetic rather than what actually happened. When the basic facts of your medical history can't survive even surface-level scrutiny, people are going to question whether any of it is true. Let's talk about the pregnancy bump, because this is where things get really hard to ignore. People who followed Meghan's pregnancy closely noticed something wasn't quite right about how that bump looked and behaved. And I'm not talking about body shaming or nitpicking normal pregnancy changes. I'm talking about legitimate questions about physics and how pregnancy actually works. The bumps seem to move around in ways that don't make sense.
When I was looking at a man called Tiny Rowland, who ran a controversial company called Lonro and was called the unacceptable face of...
One appearance, it's sitting high. Next time you see her, it's lower. Sometimes it looks bigger, sometimes smaller, and not in the gradual way you'd expect as a pregnancy progresses. It's like it had a mind of its own, shifting and changing in ways that left people scratching their heads. Pregnant women's bodies do change as the baby grows and moves, sure, but there's a consistency to it. There's a logic to how a real pregnancy bump sits on someone's body. What people were seeing with Meghan didn't follow that pattern. Then there's that moment Lady Colin Campbell absolutely loves bringing up, the deep squat. Meghan was at a public event, heavily pregnant, supposedly around 8 months along. And she just drops into this full, deep squat while wearing heels. Now, if you've ever been pregnant or known someone who was, you know how challenging basic movement gets in the third trimester.
What were Prince Philip's true feelings towards Meghan?
Your center of gravity is completely off. Your joints are loosened up from pregnancy hormones. You're carrying extra weight in the front. Most women at 8 months pregnant aren't casually doing deep squats in heels like it's nothing. Lady Colin Campbell doesn't just mention this, she flat out mocks it. Because to anyone who understands pregnancy, it looks absurd. And it's not just that one moment. Throughout the entire pregnancy, Meghan looked incredibly healthy. She barely seemed to gain any weight outside of the bump itself. She was walking around with tons of energy, doing events, traveling, showing zero signs of the exhaustion that comes with growing a human being inside you. Her face didn't show the typical pregnancy fullness. Her body looked exactly the same except for that bump. for someone who is supposedly dealing with high-risk pregnancy complications. Remember, she claims she had preeclampsia.
Please showing the rooms in the Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital.
So Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital has two types.
She looked better than most women having completely normal, uncomplicated pregnancies. Here's what doesn't add up. You can't have it both ways. You can't claim you were dealing with serious medical issues, high-risk pregnancy, all these complications that required careful monitoring, and then also be out there looking like you just stuck a basketball under your dress. Women with preeclampsia often have visible swelling, especially in the face and hands. They're tired. They're dealing with real physical symptoms that show. Meghan looked like she was glowing and thriving, not struggling with a dangerous pregnancy condition. The contrast between what people actually saw with their own eyes and what Meghan claimed was happening behind the scenes is massive. She tells these stories about medical emergencies and high-risk complications, but the visual record shows someone who seemed to sail through pregnancy.
And the bombshell revelations that have followed them, especially when it comes to their children, Archie and Lilibet. One of the most trusted
without a single issue. And when you add in all the weirdness about how that bump moved and behaved, people aren't just going to forget what they witnessed. The disconnect is too big to ignore, and it raises obvious questions about whether what we were being shown matched reality at all. Here's what makes all of this even stranger: the level of secrecy Harry and Meghan insisted on for both births. Because when you look at how every other modern royal birth has been handled, the contrast is shocking. There's a standard way these things go down, and it's been the same playbook for decades. The whole world gets to watch it happen, step by step, with complete transparency. But Harry and Meghan threw that entire system out the window. Think about William and Kate's 3 kids, George, Charlotte, and Louis. Every single birth followed the exact same pattern.
And Lady C, have had so many brilliant questions coming in from our outspoken members.
Approved doctors, security teams coordinating everything, press updates as things progressed. And then, that iconic moment everyone knows. William and Kate standing on those hospital steps just hours after the birth, showing their new baby to the world. Cameras everywhere, the whole thing right there for everyone to see. There was never any question about where the births happened, who delivered the babies, or whether it all went down the way they said it did. Everything was out in the open. Harry and Meghan, complete opposite. They shut everyone out from the very beginning. No approved doctors stepping forward, no press updates, no hospital steps moment. Just silence, followed by a vague announcement hours after the fact. And when people tried to get basic information, stuff that should have been totally standard, they hit a wall. It wasn't just about wanting privacy for the actual delivery.
Meghan had already recorded their poison for Netflix. It was already edited. All the stuff that we heard today.
It was this blanket refusal to follow any of the normal procedures that have always been part of royal births. The doctor situation is particularly weird. Queen Elizabeth herself offered to have royal physicians attend the births. These are trusted medical professionals who've handled royal family matters for years. People everyone knew and could reach if needed. Harry and Meghan turned them down flat. Instead, they insisted on using their own doctors. People nobody in the royal circle knew. People who apparently couldn't be reached afterward. People whose names never got mentioned. Why would you refuse experienced royal doctors and go with complete unknowns unless you specifically wanted to keep everything under wraps? And it's not like Harry and Meghan are consistent about this privacy thing. They scream about wanting privacy and keeping their family life private.
She says people inside the palace have contacted her privately for years, begging her to expose the truth the crown refuses to clarify.
But then they're constantly putting themselves out there. Netflix documentaries, tell-all interviews, photo ops with the kids when it suits them. They'll parade the children around for good press, then turn around and cry invasion of privacy the second anyone asks questions. You can't have it both ways. You can't demand total secrecy around the births, keeping everything locked down when every other royal has been open about it, and then act shocked when people wonder what's going on. The secrecy around these births isn't just about protecting the kids or keeping family moments private. It's strategic, it's deliberate, and it creates exactly the kind of questions and doubts that end up affecting how people see those children's place in the family. If everything had been straightforward and open like every other royal birth, none of this speculation would exist. But when you refuse to share the most basic details, when you shut out
Where the baby, I swear that's the first thing I thought.
And that's what she used as a weapon at the time. So there were quite a few things about
everyone who might know what happened, people are going to fill in those blanks themselves. And the longer Harry and Meghan stay silent about it, the worse it gets. At this point, you might be thinking this is all just about Archie and Lilibet's births. But here's the thing. It's actually part of a much bigger pattern with Harry and Meghan. The births are just where the cracks in their story became impossible to ignore. When you step back and look at their track record, the same issues keep popping up over and over. Stories that don't hold up when you check them. Claims that turn out to be false. A whole lot of talking with very little backing it up. Remember when Meghan swore up and down that she had absolutely nothing to do with that Omid Scobie book, Finding Freedom? She denied any involvement, made it seem like this guy just wrote a glowing biography about them without any input from the Sussex camp.
I think where Meghan is concerned, all dollar bills are green and everything.
Then later, oops, turns out she actually did cooperate with him. She'd been in contact, provided information, the whole thing. That information came out later and she couldn't deny it anymore. So the story quietly changed. But by then, she'd already told everyone a completely different version. Same thing with the letter to her father. Meghan denied being involved in how that got leaked and published. She acted like she had nothing to do with it, like it was all other people making decisions without her knowledge. And again, later it comes out that, yeah, she was involved. She knew what was happening. The denials were just flat out wrong. And when she got called on it, the response was basically, oh, she misremembered. Not that she lied, just misremembered, convenient. Then there's the Netflix show. 6 full hours of Harry and Meghan telling their side of the story, making all these claims about how they were treated.
Surgery that ends pregnancies before they ever begin. She didn't dramatize it. She didn't plead for attention. She simply said
what happened behind palace doors, all this dramatic stuff. And Netflix just let them talk. No fact-checking, no bringing in other perspectives to balance things out, no challenging any of the claims they made, even the ones that sounded questionable. It was just a 6-hour platform for them to say whatever they wanted, with zero accountability. Most documentaries at least try to present multiple sides or verify the information being shared. This was pure one-sided storytelling, and people just accepted it as truth because it was on Netflix. And here's what really gets people: the way they use their kids. Anytime criticism starts heating up, suddenly the children appear. Staged photo opportunities, carefully timed paparazzi walks, these perfectly orchestrated moments designed to make Harry and Meghan look like devoted, hands-on parents. The message is clear. Look at us. We're a normal family. Leave us alone.
Sitting here today discussing her son as an outright liar, as a man who conspired with Meghan.
But the second the press coverage turns good, they're all about sharing family moments and letting people into their lives. The minute it turns negative, it's back to, how dare you invade our privacy? Think of the children. The kids get rolled out like props whenever it's convenient, then hidden away when it's not. Lady Colin Campbell has been especially harsh about this whole pattern. She doesn't hold back when she talks about Meghan, calling her one of the nastiest public figures she's ever had to watch. And Lady Colin Campbell has been around royalty and celebrities for decades. She's seen a lot. For her to single out Meghan like that says something. Her take is that Meghan's not just making mistakes or handling things badly. She thinks it's deliberate, that Meghan's creating chaos on purpose, stirring up controversy and drama specifically to mess with the royal family's image and keep herself in the headlines.
See, she's always been a controller. Shocker. Control claw. Very controlled as well as controlling.
Whether you agree with Lady Colin Campbell's assessment or not, the pattern is hard to deny. Story after story that doesn't check out. Denials that turn into admissions. Privacy demands that only apply when it's convenient. And through it all, Harry and Meghan keep acting like they're the victims of unfair treatment when really people are just asking them to back up what they've said. The birth questions aren't happening in a vacuum. They're happening because there's already a long track record of things not adding up, and people have stopped taking their word for it. So after everything we've just gone through, the missing hospital records, the wrong state codes, the medical claims that don't make sense, the secrecy that goes way beyond normal privacy, there's really one simple thing that would make all of this go away instantly. Just answer the basic questions. That's it. Show the paperwork.
So the royals who questioned Prince Archie's skin tone have been revealed. Listen, remember when Meghan Markle told Oprah that some people...
Name the doctors who were actually there. Share the same basic information that every other royal birth has had for centuries. Clear it all up in one shot and all these questions disappear. But they won't do it. And that's the part that speaks louder than anything Harry and Meghan have said in any interview, any documentary, any carefully worded statement. The silence around these specific details is deafening. They'll talk for hours about how unfairly they've been treated, how the media twisted their story, how nobody understands what they went through. But when it comes to the actual births, where it happened, who was there, what the medical situation really was, nothing. Just walls and deflection. Tom Bower and Lady Colin Campbell aren't backing off this story. They've both built careers on digging into things powerful people don't want examined, and they're not the type to fold just because someone gets upset about it.
Your Royal Highness, do you have any wishes for your new niece, Lilibet?
Oh. They put their names and reputations behind these claims, they've shared what they found, and they're standing by it. The more time passes without Harry and Meghan providing straight answers, the more these investigators' claims keep circulating. Because if the claims were ridiculous, if there was nothing to hide, wouldn't it be easy to just show people they're wrong? The questions keep stacking up. Every time someone brings this up, instead of getting answers, we get more vague statements about privacy or changing the subject entirely. And meanwhile, the basics still don't line up. Hospital staff who can't place Meghan there, birth certificates with wrong codes, medical timelines that make no sense, doctors who were supposedly present but weren't even in the country. All of this stuff should be incredibly easy to explain.
I don't know why I get so excited over the birth of babies of people that I don't even know, but Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, they just welcomed their new...
If everything happened the way they said it did. But it's not getting explained, it's just sitting there unaddressed while Harry and Meghan talk about everything else under the sun. Here's what makes this whole situation so damaging for them. Their entire brand is built on authenticity. That's been the selling point from day one. We're the real ones, we're telling our story, we're being genuine in a world of stuffy royal protocols. That's what they've sold to Netflix, to publishers, to everyone who's supported them. But when you won't answer the most basic questions about your own children's births, that authenticity brand falls apart. How can you claim to be all about being real and transparent while refusing to address basic questions that should have simple answers? Until Harry and Meghan actually address what went down in those hospitals.
Why she's so easy to upset when it comes to bad press. But Harry is, he was the great.
Not with vague statements about privacy, but with actual answers to straightforward questions, none of this goes away. The speculation continues, the doubts grow, and their credibility keeps taking hits they can't afford. Because at the end of the day, people aren't asking for anything unreasonable. They're asking for the same thing every other royal birth has shared openly. And the fact that Harry and Meghan won't or can't share it, that tells its own story. So what do you think about all this? Does any of it add up, or are we missing something? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you make of it. And if you found this interesting, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell because there's more coming that you won't want to miss. Thanks for watching.